Recording in progress.
Chapter 3, Agency Brokerage and Ethical Considerations. In this chapter, we're going to identify the types of agency. We're going to learn about fiduciary responsibilities, what they are, who you owe them to. We're going to describe the broker and salesperson relationships and talk about compensation issues. You're going to be able to discuss the disclosures to sellers and buyers relating to creating agency and providing material information. We're going to describe the different types of misrepresentation. We're going to learn about the Consumer Fraud Act, antitrust laws, ethical considerations, and disciplinary offenses as a form of consumer protection. So let's start off with brokerage, the real estate brokerage. Brokerage is defined as the business of bringing buyers and sellers or landlords and tenants together. In exchange, we may receive compensation for those services. And brokers are licensed to assist others in real estate transactions. Salespeople are representatives of brokers, and they can be paid through them for assisting them in those transactions. Okay. Here's a list of all the players and some terms and definitions here of the players or types of arrangements, agency relationships. Salesperson is a real estate licensee who works under a broker. Principal is the person we're working with. It's our client. Agent.
Can you repeat? Sorry. Can you repeat that?
I'm just reading what's right here on screen. A principal is the person we're working with. It's the client. Okay. So our client is also known as the principal. Agent is a licensee who owes fiduciary duties to clients, their principals. Subagent. Ooh, what is a subagent? What does sub mean? Under. So a subagent is an agent of an agent. You're a subagent of your broker. You work under your broker, right? You're an agent. Your broker's an agent. You're both agents. You're a subagent. Follow? Buyer's agents only represent the buyer. Seller's agent only represents the seller. A disclosed dual agent. Well, that means that you or your agency represents both parties in the transaction. And therefore, you cannot place one party's interest above the other. There's nothing wrong with being a dual agent as long as it's disclosed. Undisclosed dual agency is illegal, but disclosed dual agency, as long as both parties are aware that you're working with the other as well, it's not a problem. Or that your company is representing both parties, because it may not necessarily be you working with both the seller and the buyer. You could be working with the seller, and then another agent in your office brought the buyer. But the agency, both of you work for the same company. So therefore, the agency is representing both parties. So it's dual agency still, even if you personally are not working with both of the parties. Follow? So,
this is agent or agency?
That's disclosed dual agency. We're talking about dual. What does it mean to be a dual agent? A dual agent could be that you are working with both the seller and the buyer, but not necessarily. It could be that you're working with the seller and another agent in your office is working with the buyer on the same transaction for the same property. The agency, you both work for the same broker, so you both under the same roof, right? So the agency is representing both parties. So it's dual agency. Now, New Jersey created a new type of agency called designated agency in the last year or so. Designated agency is where you have two agents within the same brokerage firm. One is working with the seller, one is working with the buyer. And the broker designates you to only work with the seller and the other agent to only work with the buyer. It's not dual agency. The broker, the brokerage, the company is a dual agent. However, you as the individual can be a seller's agent only or a buyer's agent only. because the broker designated you that way, and they're making sure you stay separate and don't share information about your clients, okay, to avoid any conflicts there. So that's designated agency. The broker is a dual agent, but their agents are assigned as single agents, like buyer's agent only or seller's agent only. Don't read too much into it. It's simple as that. Okay. Don't try to examine it. You're going to confuse the hell out of yourself. It's really simple stuff if you don't try to overanalyze it. Okay. When you overanalyze this, then it starts getting confusing. Okay. Just keep it simple, stupid. Okay. And then that way you won't get lost in it. And there's nothing in the law that says you need to work as an agent. Even though you're a licensed real estate agent, there's nothing in the law that says you need to work in the capacity of an agent, like a buyer's agent only, seller's agent only, disclosed dual agent, or designated agent. You could work as just a manager of the transaction. You'd be called a transaction broker. Okay. So what's the difference? You don't owe fiduciary duties when working as a transaction broker to the person you're working with. And the person you're working with is not a client. They're a customer. Okay. Commission is the compensation paid for the work performed. A client is anyone we're representing as their agent and are owed fiduciary duties. Those are the legal responsibilities we owe them. Whereas a customer is anyone we do not have an agency relationship with and are not representing them as a buyer's agent, seller's agent, disclosed dual agent, or designated agent. However, we still need to treat them fairly and honestly. We don't owe fiduciary duties to customers, only to clients. Customers, we need to treat fairly and honestly. So who's a customer to you? Anybody that you're working with as a transaction broker, or if you're working with somebody as an agent, who's the other party in the transaction to you? The other agent's
customer.
The other agent's client, who are they to you? They're a customer. You don't owe them fiduciary duties. You just owe them fair and honest dealing for the other agent. Okay, so
I got it. So the one that you're working for and with is your client. The other person in the deal,
they may have a different
customer, right?
Yeah, well, hold on a second. They have a different agent from a different company. Okay, they're that agent's client, but who is their client to you? They're not your client. They're a customer.
They're a customer, so they're a piece of the of the deal.
So what do you owe them?
Nice treatment.
Fair and honest dealing. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Fair and honest dealing. Yes. You got to treat them nicely. You can't be lying to them and trying to get one over on them. Okay. We're not here to screw people over as salespeople. A lot of times people think, hey, sales, our job is to negotiate and get the best deal we can for our client and screw the other guy. No, that's not our job. Our job is to negotiate and get the best deal possible for our clients. But at the end of the day, we want both parties to walk away from the table satisfied. We don't want nobody disgruntled over, them getting screwed over in some way. That's basically the gist of this. That's the same thing what attorneys do. If you notice, real estate attorneys are in a totally different class than litigation attorneys. Litigation attorneys tend to be more aggressive. They got to win at all costs, right? Real estate attorneys are very timid, mild-mannered people. If you notice, real estate attorneys, they're like really go with the flow people. They're like, Their job is to negotiate the best terms that are amicable for both parties in the transaction and both parties find acceptable, that won't take advantage of one over the other. All right. So it's not
So,
like I gotta get the best deal. You know?
so for dual agent, both parties are client, right?
Correct.
And for designated
It's
agent,
as if
it's okay.
the other agent in
Yeah.
your office works for a different
But
company.
but for the broker, both will be client, right? But for the
Yeah,
seller,
correct. Because in reality, both of those are
agency
the
is, yeah,
both of those
agency.
agents work for the broker. Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Do, 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 do. You know what? I got to get some. Actually, I think I did get some. Hold on a second. Let me see. Let me fast forward in this slide for a second because I just didn't throw them in here yet. Okay. I did a lot of messing around and playing around with AI recently, trying to make graphics up and such for these slideshows. Um, and I came up with some graphics for different agencies and such. So let me try to find them. I'm gonna have to do that by it's on my desktop. I got to minimize this slideshow. Unfortunately, the slideshow won't allow me to go to my desktop while it's open in presentation mode.
Okay.
So give me one sec here. Yeah, where do I have this? Okay, here we go. And there we go. Wow, I made a lot of them. This is for water stuff. This is for earth. About agency. Okay, that's over here. All right. I gotta work with them a little bit. I didn't go back in there and check them fully. So let me see. I got a bunch of them that I made, a bunch with the AI notes, uh, different types of agency, gas taxes, proration, types of agency explained. Okay, that's different. Yeah, I tried to make a slide for it. I apparently I abandoned that effort for types of agencies. So so this is what I got here. You know, I just had AI do this for me to do a little comparison for the designated agent versus a dual agent. You know, two agents, same brokerage, dual agency, one agent for both parties. But it could also be two agents, same brokerage as well. Uh, Designated agency, full fiduciary duties to each client. Dual agency, limited duties, because you can't place one client's interest above the other. Whereas if you're a designated agent, you're only working as a seller's agent or only working as a buyer's agent. You can try to do the best you can for your client. Okay. You can try to uh, give them an estimate of value so they know what kind of offer to make on a property. If you're a dual agent, you can't do that. You can't suggest how much they should offer. Just say make your highest and best offer, put it, and we'll put it in writing, because you know how much the seller may be willing to accept, and it may be a lesser amount. And you can't you may be privileged to information from both the seller and the buyer, knowing that the buyer can pay more or the seller is willing to accept less, and you can't disclose that, because then you're going to be putting one party's interest above the other. So you need to work neutrally. That's why they say neutrally required. Limited duties, neutrally required. And for designated agency, lower risk of conflict of interest because you're only working with one of the parties. And dual agency, it's a higher risk of conflict of interest because if you don't know how to keep a secret and keep your mouth shut because your client's told you something in confidence and you go blab it to the other one, now you're putting one client above the other and you're opening yourself up to all kinds of possible lawsuits or disciplinary actions. Okay, let's see what else they have here. Features, designated versus dual. Two agents, same brokerage, one agent, both parties. Fiduciary duties to each client, limited duties, neutral risk, and conflict of interest, lower risk, higher risk. Okay. Not exactly the best comparison there, but I could work on that one.
That turned out pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty cool.
I'll work on it a little more to add in there what those limited duties are, though. You know, I could tweak this a little bit more. The only limited duty is confidentiality. Whatever your clients tell you in confidence, you cannot report back to the other side. Whereas if you're only representing one client, you can report if you learn something because the other agent told you something that they shouldn't have. But that's only if they violated their fiduciary duties to their client anyway. If they, for example, the seller's agent, you're representing the buyer, you talk to the seller's agent and you say, do you think the seller's willing to accept a little lower offer? And they tell you, yeah, you know what? They told me as long as you keep it above this amount, they'll find that acceptable. You're not supposed to say that. Okay. You got to say, make your highest and best offer and put it in writing. We'll present it and see if the seller accepts it. Because if you're telling them or suggesting that they make lower offers, you're never going to get the most money for your client. And as a real estate agent, your job is to get the most money possible for your client. Okay, so let's see. Here's another example of what the AI did for me here in creating another slide for the same thing. Two agents, same firm, one agent, both sides. Each agent represents one party, one agent represents both parties. Full fiduciary duties to the client, limited duties, neutral required. Let's see. What does that mean for you? Stronger client protection, clear lines of loyalty. Agent becomes neutral, facilitator, not a negotiator. Okay. Anyway, there's a couple different versions of that. So I could work on it a little more. I'm trying to improve these slides a little bit with some nice graphics for you. I thought I had something already finished for that, but apparently not.
Do you term or like a way to remember the difference? Because dual kind of seems like two,
Yes.
but I know that it's one. So do you have like a way of remembering it?
Well, dual means both parties. You're representing both parties. Dual. You're a dual agent. You're an agent for the seller and an agent for the buyer.
Okay. And DE,
A designated agent.
designated agent.
You're designated to work only with one, the seller or the buyer, by your broker. You're designated is like the word assign. You've been assigned or designated to work with this person only. And another agent's been designated or assigned to work with the other.
So you only have fiduciary duties in both cases just to the person that you're dealing with directly.
Correct. But when you're working with both parties and representing both parties, you may be you may have access to privileged information that that your clients have shared with you information. Like if you're representing both the seller and the buyer, when you got the listing, the seller may have told you they're willing to accept a lower price. Or they may have told you there's an urgency for their need to move by a certain date. They're not able to keep up with the mortgage payments because they just lost their job, so they really have an urgency to sell. You should not disclose any of that information to buyers. Okay.
Is there a fine for breaking fiduciary?
I'm sorry?
Is there a fine for like breaking fiduciary with your client?
Violating your fiduciary duties is a pretty good reason why agents get fined or have actions against their licenses and why they get sued.
Mm. Okay.
You got to put your client's interest above all others, including your own. So let's look at that right now here on page 30. Not the greatest definitions here. Client to whom specific duties are owed. Yeah, fiduciary duties. Customer is whom the agent was required to treat fairly and honestly. Okay. We do not owe customers fiduciary duties owed to clients. To clarify that, I wrote that line. Let's see. Agency relationships have become more complex over the years. That's true because years and years and years ago, if you walked into a real estate brokerage and you were a buyer looking to purchase a house, all agents represented the seller. There was no such thing as buyer's agent. Every agent owed fiduciary duties to the sellers. Then they separated it out. They said, well, now you could have a seller's only agent and a buyer's only agent. But what if I got a seller and a buyer wants to work with me too? Well, then they created dual agency. Okay. So, but dual agency comes with its own issues, especially if you don't know how to keep a secret. You know, if you have a seller that told you that they have an urgency to sell and they're willing to accept less, you can't go telling that to the buyer that comes in. Likewise, if a buyer comes in and says they're willing to pay more for this house if they need to in order to get it, you can't tell that to the seller. If this buyer makes an offer, you got to present whatever the offer is. You can't just say, hey, you know, they told me that if you reject this offer, they're willing to go higher, you know, because, you know, now you're putting one person's best interest over the others and you're playing favorites. You can't play favorites when representing both of them. Okay. Just keep it that way, right? You got two best friends. You can't play favorites in who you're going to take to the concert with you. Unless you talk to them both and you flip a coin maybe and they're both aware of it, right? You can't be playing favorites of both your best friends. Otherwise, you're going to lose one of them, right? Same kind of situation here. You can't play favorites with the two clients because you may lose one of them and they're going to end up suing you. Okay, so the creation of agency is determined not by who pays the commission, but by a contractual agreement between the broker and the buyer, seller, landlord, or tenant. It's also possible for the licensee to function as a transaction broker, not as a buyer's agent, seller's agent, disclosed dual agent, or designated agent. So you're just acting as a manager of the transaction without representing either party. But in this case, no agency relationship is created, so therefore you don't owe fiduciary duties to anybody. And if somebody tells you something in confidence, you could actually disclose it to the other party if you think it'll make the deal happen. But they say you still should not put one client's interest above the other. So I don't know how you would do that if you're allowed to disclose something, but how that's not putting one party's interest above the other. So anyway, even transaction brokers should have a written BSA, brokerage service agreement, that explains what exactly you're doing in exchange for the money you're earning. All right, here's just another graphic of understanding clients versus customer. Client is someone the licensee is representing as their agent and owes fiduciary duties. Legal obligations, those are the legal obligations we owe to clients. So who's considered a client? Anyone the licensee is working with as a agent, buyer's agent, seller's agent, disclosed dual agent, or designated agent. They're your client. A customer is someone the licensee is working with as a transaction broker, not as their agent, or they could be another agent's client. To us, they're a customer. And customers, we just need to treat fairly and honestly. We can't lie to them. We only owe them fair and honest dealing. That's it. We do not owe fiduciary duties to customers. Now, down at the bottom, here's another term, fiduciary duties. What are they? They are the legal responsibilities that we owe to clients. If we violate them, we can be held legally and financially liable to our clients. So there you go, Gladys. You know, if you violate your fiduciary duties to someone, the real estate commission can come down on you. They can issue fines and penalties and things on your license. But the bigger issue is you could get sued. You know, most of the time, real estate agents get sued. It's because they violated their fiduciary duties to their clients or they mishandled their money. Okay, so the role of a broker as an agent of the principal is a fiduciary relationship that falls within the requirements of the laws of agency. We owe fiduciary duties to our clients when we work as an agent, but not as a transaction broker. So what is a fiduciary relationship? We'll highlight this on page 30. My definition is pretty close to the book's definition. They updated their definition a bit. I think one of my old teachers made the suggestion for them to update the definition using my definitions here, but it's still off just a little bit. The book we're going to highlight, fiduciary relationship is one of trust and confidence in which an agent's responsible for the money and or property of others. It requires putting the principal's interest above all others, including the broker's own interest. And the agent who owes fiduciary duties to someone else is known as a fiduciary. Okay, my definition here is slightly different. It says, fiduciary relationship is based on trust and confidence in which an agent's responsible for the money and or property of others. It requires putting the client's interest above all others, including your own and the broker's interest. The book just says the broker's interest. I'm including your own as well. I'm going to make it personal for you because sometimes agents forget they're part of that broker. Okay. It's not just because you think of yourself separately from the broker, but you're not. You're that broker's big toe. Remember, you're attached to that broker. So you got to put your client's interest above all others, including your own and your broker's. And if you owe somebody fiduciary duties because you're working as an agent, you're known as a fiduciary. That's what we call people that owe those legal responsibilities to others. All right. Let's just do the highlights and the notes here, and then we're going to move to the next slide where I have my written out explanations here, which are clearer and better than these definitions by far. So do these highlights, but also write these notes here in the book, unless you're going to be taking screenshots just from the next slide. Okay, so above general agent, you should write scope of authority is defined in the property management agreement. And then highlight the first 2.5 lines, all the way up to an example of a general agent could be a property manager. Then above special agent, write most agents function as special agents. Special agent is authorized to represent the principal in one specific capacity only, and underline that, one specific capacity only. because I'm pretty sure you get an exam question that uses that weird wording. I'll explain to you what that weird wording actually means so you comprehend it. And as special agent, the broker is not authorized to buy or sell property or to legally bind the principal to any contract. That's basically the difference between a special agent and a general agent. Special agents cannot legally bind their clients to contracts. General agents can. And I'll explain why in the next slide. Just let me know when you got all your highlights and notes down.
All set.
Okay, everybody's good? All right.
Yes.
So, you guys ever hear of a power of attorney? You ever hear about a document called the power of attorney? A
Yes.
power of attorney is a document that grants someone else the authority to legally sign documents on your behalf, just as if it was you in that room, standing in that room, signing those documents yourself. Now, a power of attorney, usually you don't give a power of attorney to somebody to sign documents on all matters. You usually limit the scope on what you're authorizing them to sign on your behalf. Like when you give someone a power of attorney, you're not going to give them an unlimited power of attorney to open up bank accounts or close bank accounts or get loans or take out mortgages in your name, right? You want to limit the scope of authority that you're granting to that person. Okay. So this is why we usually refer to it as a limited power of attorney. Now, here's a little interesting factoid too. Power of attorney documents are only valid while the person who gave them that authority to sign on their behalf is alive. Power of attorney is no good after you're dead. You can't sign on someone's behalf if they're dead because they're not alive, right? They're giving you the authority to sign documents on their behalf. If they can't sign themselves, then you can't sign for them. Okay. Power of attorney is just for you to be able to sign on someone else's behalf if they're on vacation or they're not around. It's a convenience thing rather than a is it possible thing. You know, if you're dead, it's impossible to sign a document yourself, so therefore nobody else can do it for you. Plus, after you die, what determines who gets your stuff? It's a will, right? So power of attorney is a document where you grant somebody the authority to act on your behalf in signing documents. And that person who you grant that power of attorney to is known as an attorney in fact, when in fact, they're not an attorney. Little brain teaser there for you. Okay. An attorney of fact, in fact, is what you just call the person who can sign documents on your behalf when you give them a power of an attorney. Okay. Now, a universal agent is someone who you give an unlimited power of attorney to. They could sign on your behalf on all matters. They could open bank accounts. They could close them. They could get loans or mortgages in your name, buy a car in your name. They could do anything in your name because you didn't limit the scope on how they could sign and what they could sign on your behalf. That's crazy to give someone that. I mean, you may give that to your mom or something like for a living will or something in case I'm in a hospital and, you know, I can't do something for myself. You know, maybe you could have the power of attorney to act on my behalf on all matters, you know. But that's different. Real estate agents work in one of two ways. We only work as general agents or special agents. Now, what is a general agent and who works as a general agent? Well, let me first tell you that a general agent can legally bind their clients to a contract. Now, who works as a general agent? Property managers. Property managers usually work as general agents, and they can legally bind their clients to contracts within the scope of their limited authority that was given to them by the property owner that hired them. And so, what is that document where they were given authority to act on the property owner's behalf? It's the property management agreement. The property management agreement that a property manager signs with the property owner is also kind of like their limited power of attorney. It specifies what they're hiring you to do and what authority they're granting you and what authority they're not granting you. Okay, everybody got that? Pretty straightforward?
Yes, but I have a question. Didn't you say that a property manager cannot act uh, as a like a real estate agent, like a seller's agent?
Well, you know, you have to be a licensed real estate agent to be a property manager.
But you can't be just a property manager acting like as a general agent if you don't have your license.
No, you need to have a real estate license to be a property manager. Property managers are general agents. So, what is a general agent? General agent is somebody uh, who can legally bind their clients to a contract because they have some sort of power of attorney that they sign. With property managers, the power of attorney is your property management agreement, where the owner of the property hires you to manage their strip mall. Are you responsible for filling vacancies? Probably, right? Advertising, trying to find tenants and filling vacancies, right? Um, are you responsible for the snow removal? Probably. And the cleaning up of trash and all that stuff? Probably. Depends what it says in the property management agreement. Now, because they want you to fill vacancies and find tenants, do they want you to sign contracts on the owner's behalf, legally binding the tenant to the property owner? Or does the property owner want to actually sign the contract? That depends. You know what it depends on? What's written in the property management agreement. Because the property management agreement is your limited power of attorney. Some property owners may grant you that authority, others may not. They may want to sign it themselves.
Okay, because I remember we spoke about sometimes that people are property managers and they don't have a real estate license. So,
Yeah, those are people that are breaking the law. That's why I brought that up. I was talking about people who are in property management must have a real estate license.
okay.
Unless it's your property that you own and you're managing your own property, you don't need to have a real estate license to manage your own property. It's when you're doing it for someone else in exchange for something of value, like pay, that you need to have a real estate license.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We could go back to the very first page of chapter 1. Anyone who takes part in a real estate transaction in New Jersey for another person for a fee, commission, or other valuable consideration must have a real estate license. Okay. So I told you I'd bring it up again during this class, and it would probably be pertaining to property managers because they're the ones that are notorious for not having licenses. And because they don't think they have to, they get confused on it. And this is why the real estate commission's investigators are always coming down on property management companies and stopping in on property management companies because guaranteed there's people working there that probably don't have a real estate license that are doing stuff that requires a real estate license. Okay. Now, most agents are not property managers. They're helping people buy or rent homes, or they're selling homes or looking for renters for the owners, right? So we call those people special agents. Okay, general agents are property managers. All other real estate agents work as special agents because you're very special. Don't forget that. Okay, you're very special. So, what's the difference between a special agent and a general agent? Well, we just learned that general agents can legally bind the clients to a contract within the scope of their limited power of attorney, which is their property management agreement. Whew, that was a mouthful.
So
Special
only,
agents can
sorry.
work in
So
one. Sure.
only
But
property agents are general agents. All other agents are special, right? What is universal agent then? We have
it's
no.
somebody who, well, that's when we were talking about real estate agents do not work as universal agents. Okay. I was using that to prove a point when we talk about powers of attorney. When I started out by explaining what a power of attorney is and what a universal agent is. A universal agent is someone who you give an unlimited power of attorney to. And that's just crazy to do that, right? So it's rare that people are given an unlimited power of attorney, but if they're given that, they're a universal agent. Real estate agents will never be a universal agent. Okay. So the only two ways that real estate agents work is as general agents or special agents. You see, I wrote here, real estate agents will work in one of two ways, either as a general agent or a special agent. And they only work as a general agent if they're in property management. Otherwise, all other agents are very special. They're special agents in that they could work in one capacity only. What does that mean? It means if you're hired by a buyer to help them locate a property that meets their needs and help guide them through the process of how to get a loan, how to write up the contract and all of that. But you can't sign the contract yourself on their behalf and submit the offer legally binding them. You could write up the contract, but your client still needs to sign it, right? You don't sign the contract for them. So therefore, you're not legally binding them to contracts. They got to sign the contracts themselves. Or let's look at it from the seller's perspective. A seller hires you to market their property for sale, to find a ready, willing, and able buyer. Now, if a ready, willing, and able buyer submits a contract on that property, can you accept it without discussing it with the seller? No. So you cannot legally bind them to a contract. You have to submit that offer to the owner within what time frame? 24 hours.
24 hours.
And then they make their decision whether they want to accept it or not. So that just proves the point that you cannot legally bind them to a contract. Okay, you're hired in one capacity only, to market their property for sale and find them a ready, willing, and able buyer. And then when an offer comes in, forward it or present it to the owner, and it's up to them to decide if they're going to accept it. Or if you're hired by a buyer, your job is to walk them through the buying process and help them find a house in their price range that meets all their criteria, prepare the contract for them, but you can't sign it and submit it for them. You could prepare the contract, but they need to sign it, and then you could submit it for them. So you cannot legally bind them to a contract. You could only work in one capacity only, to prepare the contract or to market a property, not to accept offers or legally bind your clients to contracts. So that's what one capacity only means. It means you cannot legally bind your clients to a contract. You cannot. And I have all of that explanation that I just gave you is what the writing is on the slide right in front of you. Okay. It's a lot clearer than what the book gives. The book just says one capacity only, and I think they say something actually about, as special agent, the broker is not authorized to buy or sell property or to bind the principal to any contract. But okay, they mean legally bind. They're not being so clear as this slide is. I'm spelling it out for you, so it's nice and clear. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make some notes so I can make some AI graphics for this. AI graphics. for general versus special agent. And power of attorney. And attorney in fact. And universal agent. We'll throw that in there too. Universal versus general versus special. All right. So we're going to have some graphics made up by that good artist called AI. Because my art skills suck. All right. So once again, yeah.
Should I hold a question till the end of the class? It's not.
You got a question? Ask it. Go ahead. Shoot.
Can you really quickly just let me know the difference between addendum A and addendum B?
Oh, for the employment agreement, independent contractor agreement, addendum A spells out what your compensation is going to be while employed at the brokerage firm.
Addendum A.
And addendum B explains how much you're going to make on transactions that you have not yet closed on after you leave the brokerage firm, because another agent will have to be assigned to finish those transactions, so you won't get your full commission on it. So it's a big breakdown.
And that is like you sign that in the beginning of your.
It's part of your employment agreement, your independent contractor employment agreement. Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So what are those fiduciary duties? Okay. You need to learn and study and memorize these. COLD. That's an acronym to remember your fiduciary duties. COALD. That's the spelling of cold here. Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, and disclosure. I think we could make another pretty AI graphic for that too, right? For fiduciary duties. And we actually have two acronyms I'll teach you, COLD and old car. Old car sounds cool, but it's harder to remember. Okay, so I teach you COLD. COALD. Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, which includes confidentiality. If your client tells you something in confidence, you must keep your mouth shut. And disclosure, which includes notice. So if you come to learn about any information that could help your client, you have a fiduciary duty not to keep it to yourself, but you have to go back and report it to notify your client about the information you just learned. That's what that is. Okay. I'll give you a little bit further explanations with them, but that's it in a nutshell. We're going to go through each one of these fiduciary duties, but you need to memorize the acronym COLD, COALD. Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, and disclosure. What does it stand for? Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, disclosure.
Cold.
Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, disclosure. What is COLD?
Care. Oh, they are fiduciary duties.
Yeah, but I want you to tell me each one. Okay, listen. Let's act like we're in a choir here and we're going to sing together, okay? What are our fiduciary duties? Let's just try to do it in a little bit of the same tempo. So care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, disclosure. Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, disclosure. Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty,
disclosure.
You say it over and over and over till it's stuck in your noggin, because you will get a question on exams that could just be as simple as, there'll be a multiple choice and say, which one of these are or are not your fiduciary duties? And they'll give you a list of care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, and something else, right? So then that's not it. You need to get the one that shows all of your fiduciary duties, not the ones that throw in some other nonsense statement. So you need to memorize what are all your fiduciary duties: care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, disclosure. Okay. And remember, if you are a disclosed dual agent, you must not place one client's interest above another. Transaction brokers don't owe these fiduciary duties to the customer they're working with. They only owe fair and honest dealing. And here's the other acronym to remember fiduciary duties that some teachers teach and some books have it in them. Instead of cold, they have old car. It sounds cool that you'd want to remember it that way, but it's actually, for me anyway, it's a little bit more difficult to remember because cold, care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, disclosure, it flows. Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, disclosure. Whereas old car is obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accountability, and reasonable care and diligence. It doesn't flow as easy. Obedience, loyalty, disclosure, care, accountability, reasonable care. Confidentiality, accountability, reasonable care. Yeah, it doesn't flow as good. That's why I like to teach it this way. Cold. Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, disclosure. Loyalty includes confidentiality and disclosure includes notice. Boom. It's easier to remember for me anyway. So what is obedience anyway? You're not a dog, but you must obey your client's lawful instructions. Loyalty is you have to always act in your client's best interest, even if it means foregoing your own. Disclosure, you must disclose all relevant information to your client. Confidentiality, you must keep your client's confidential information private. Keep your mouth shut. Don't go blabbing it to other people that they're in distress and they're in danger of losing their property if they don't sell it quickly, or that they lost their job and they need to sell it fast, or that they're relocating for work and the family's currently torn apart because half the family's at the new location and you're still waiting here until the house gets sold. That tells them that there's a sense of urgency. Then you're undermining your client's best interest if you tell potential buyers anything. Why do potential buyers ask why they selling? Anybody here ever go house shopping and you ever ask why they selling? It's a common question. Why do you think people ask it? Just curious, or is there a reason for it?
I believe you can negotiate the price based upon those facts.
Yeah. So as a real estate agent, when you say, why are they selling? I'm not saying this to you because that would be rude, but I'm thinking it's none of your damn business. Right? Because it's not. So how do I respond to you without insulting you?
Just say, I'm not so sure.
Well, can you find out?
Sure, I'll get
See,
back to you.
now you're just digging down that rabbit hole, and don't go there.
I could end it with, I'll get back to you.
Nah, but don't tell people you're going to get back to them if you don't.
Okay.
Because then they're like, oh, the agent said they get back to me. They never got back to me. They're not diligent agents. They lied to me, or people can get really wacky,
What's the best practice answer?
Yeah. So what's the best answer? If somebody asks you why they selling? Now, my answer, it may sound a little snarky, but it's not rude. I'm going to say because they want to move.
Relocate. They want to relocate.
I mean, they may be thinking it, but they're not going to say wise ass, but they may think that a little bit, but seriously, the answer is because they want to move. If you have a further follow-up question, by all means, go ahead and ask. And now I'm knowing that you're trying to find out something to get an advantage. But I already know that that's what the whole purpose of that question was. And I'm not going to give you any leeway on it. We're playing these Jedi mind games with each other here right now without talking. or saying limited speech, but there's other messages, there's other communication that's going on between us here. This is all sales stuff, you know? This is reality. If you ever take psychology classes, or, you know, forget it, you don't need to take psychology classes. You could probably watch YouTube videos on psychological experiments, or, you know, monitoring people's reactions to other people. It really helps you in sales if you're aware of human nature and the psychology of questions. So when somebody asks you why they want to sell, because they want to move. Why are you interested? But I don't stop there. Because they want to sell. Why are you interested in making an offer? We could go back to my office right now and write it up. Or if I have my tablet, I'll pull up you know, NJR forms, and I could start writing up a contract right now. Have you been pre-approved for a mortgage yet? If not, we could get a mortgage rep on the phone. You could talk to them and tell them what your finances are. They could run your Social Security and get you approved for a mortgage loan. It'll give you an idea of what your monthly mortgage payments would be. Would you find that useful? You see how I flipped the script on them? From trying to find out information about my client, I turned it into a call to action. Why are you interested in making an offer? Should we get a, have you been pre-approved for a mortgage yet? Or should I get one on the phone for you, and they could run your numbers and get you approved, and you could then see what your monthly mortgage payment is going to be like? You know, you have to offer something else to them of value, you know, not just, we want to examine and see if you could afford it. I'm saying we could get you on the phone with a mortgage rep so that they could get you pre-qualified, and then you can find out what your monthly mortgage payment would be. Would you find that helpful to know what your monthly mortgage payment would be like? You know, so I'm giving you something back. Yeah. See, these are little, if you just have a quick conversation like this, a lot of people don't even catch on to it. It's a little bit of a psychological game that's going on, you know. And, you know, as you become more seasoned and get more comfortable in this, you'll know how to play the game a little bit better. But this is what happens in our exchange here, what's going on. And you got to create a call to action. That's like, now they want you to write up the contract for them to purchase the house. Okay. You don't just push the contract in front of them. You do this. You guys ready? Hold on a second. Let me minimize the screen so you see it full screen. You get the full effect. Ready? Sign here. You got to offer them the pen. If you just put it on the table, they're not going to pick it up. You have to say, just sign right here. I'm telling you, this works. It seems simple. It seems stupid. It seems like you're not learning anything here by me sticking a pen in your face. But if you don't stick a pen in somebody's face and you just sit it on the table, they're going to be touching the paper. They're going to be avoiding the pen. They're going to be touching the paper, and they're going to be like, thinking, I need an attorney to look at this first. And, you know, this is why before I ever take them out house shopping, I give them a blank copy of those contracts and forms. So they had the opportunity. And I say, hey, listen, this is the same contract I gave you in advance. I told you that you'd be signing when you found that perfect house. Here's the pen to sign. Okay, it's the same contract. All we need to look at now is there's no surprises. So all you got to do is look at what I wrote in the blank lines: the purchase price, the offer date, you know, how much you're going to put down, the anticipated closing date, initial there, sign here, sign there. Okay, there you go. Okay, it sounds like simple, stupid stuff, but it actually works.
For accounting, what type of accounting are we doing for them?
I'm sorry, you faded out on me in just a second there. What, can you repeat that?
For the fiduciary responsibilities, it says accounting. What type of accounting are we doing for them?
Your client gives you money. You have to safeguard their money and or property. You're accounting for property. You're not doing like financial account. You're accounting for their money and or property by safeguarding it. Your clients, you got buyers, they give you money. What do you do with it? You give it to the broker so they can put it in the escrow account. If you're hosting an open house, you have to account for their belongings there. How can we safeguard our clients at an open house? Have a sign-in sheet. Check people's IDs. Wow. Has anybody here ever been to an open house? If you go to an open house, what does the agent have you do?
It depends where it is. If it's a new build where it's all like just like it belongs to the model house. That's what I'm trying to say.
The builders and stuff. Okay.
Right. They
Well,
are a
it's
little more lenient than the ones that somebody actually lives in and is their own stuff.
okay,
So
but what's the same? What's the same with both of them?
you have to present your identification.
No, that's advice I usually give to agents to do, is to ask for ID. But what you have to do, sign in.
Signing, yes, yes.
There's a sign-in sheet.
Signing,
Okay.
yes.
It's actually very rare for agents to ask people for IDs. The only ones I've ever come across where an agent asks for an ID at an open house are my students. I
I've
swear to
had
God.
it out of town with the new bills. They ask for it because it's almost like they trying to shove you to
They
make
want
a
to get your
purchase.
information of your address and all that other stuff as well
Yes.
instead of just your name. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, by the way, since you bring up new construction, uh, if this, you got to learn ways to coach your clients, your buyer clients. Tell them if they ever do go to an open house that they give them a couple of your business cards and say you need to let them know that you're already working with an agent and write that agent's name down on the open house sign-in sheet. If you don't do that and they go to new construction, if they go to new construction open houses and they don't write that they're already working with another agent, and then later on your agent comes in, they will not allow you to work with an agent and pay them a commission. They'll allow you to work with an agent, but they're not paying a commission. You, unless you disclosed at the beginning when you were going to see that open house that you were already working with an agent, and then the builder will pay a commission to the agent. But if that buyer walked into that builder's open house and they never said they were working with an agent, they won't pay a commission. It's a quirky thing amongst builders. Okay. But anyway, forget about new construction for a second. Let's just go with the resale properties, which are the majority of them out there, right? You walk into an open house. What does the agent have you do? Sign in. And then what? What's your experience with agents at open houses? What did they have you do then? Or what transpired after you signed in?
Maybe the ID part now, or walk around
Well,
the house, introduce
okay.
yourself.
Okay. Did you walk around the house on your own or did the agent guide you around? Different
Agent should
agents
guide
do
us
different.
around.
Yeah, different agents do different things, but there is a right way to do it.
In groups.
Okay, so what I do is this, and this is how I like to train you guys, uh, because I know you're not going to get this training from your broker because I've never seen a broker train people like this. When you go to an open house, you have to have a sign-in sheet. We also need to have a sign now that says, hey, this agent sitting at this open house represents the seller, not you, but they could represent you too. Just let them know that they need representation. And if you're working with an agent, you must let them know and put it on the sign-in sheet. That's what that sign says now. That's required for us to have at open houses in addition to that sign. What else do we need to have at open houses? We need to have our CIS form and possibly disclose dual agency forms if we're going to be working as a dual agent with those people, right? Our business cards, the property flyer sheet, right? Things of that nature. But when people come to open houses, agents had you sign in, right? Everybody agrees the agent had you sign in on the open house sign-in sheet? I don't like to do that. You know why I don't like to do that, even though it's required? Because I can't read half of your writing. Most people's chicken scratch is horrible, you know. So what I'll do is I'll be like, okay, I'll just need to see your ID really quick so I could sign you in. Unless you have one of those tablets that you could have them type in. But still, I still like to check their ID first. I'm going to be like, okay, before I'll let you sign in, I'll need to see your ID really quick. Now, if I asked you for your ID, you come into an open house, what would your
And
response be?
so
Would you say
anybody,
something?
so anybody can also put fake information,
Yeah, I've had
financial.
Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse attend my open houses before. I swear to God. Uh,
Oh my God.
I've looked at my sign-in sheets when I just let people sign in on their own. I found out later, I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse attended one of my open houses. You know, so I was like, this is ridiculous. You know, so we lost somebody. Oh, Andrea. Okay. So there she goes. Okay, so what yeah, you do have people put down false information sometimes. So another reason, if you check their IDs, they're less likely to do that, right? So this is why I say check your IDs. But then I ask people because I've had some people in classes before where I say at an open house I have them sign in, but before I do, I check their IDs. I ask for their ID before they sign in or before I sign them in. I'll check their IDs. And then I've had people say, what do you need to check their ID for? I've never had an agent ask me for ID before. So that's the kind of attitude sometimes you get from people that walk into open houses, you know, especially people who think that you may be discriminating against them, you know, because there's those people out there too. Um, this is how I react, and I suggest you guys take notes. Little acting class maybe in order here. Okay, note the little bit of overacting that I do. So I'll just need you to sign in here. Are you currently working with another agent? If so, you're going to need to sign in their information there on the sign-in sheet too. But I'm going to need to see your ID before you sign in. What you need to see my ID for? Well, you never had an agent ask you for your ID before? No, I'm shocked. You've never had an agent ask for your ID before at an open house? Well, I don't know how other agents out there conduct their business, but when somebody hires me to represent them, like the seller hired us to host this open house here and let people in off the street, I don't know how you could just let people walk in and sign whatever name there without checking their ID to verify who they are. I mean, anybody can walk in off the street and then steal something and walk out. You know, by checking your ID and having an accurate list of people who have walked in, we could better safeguard the belongings here. If something goes missing, we could turn over the list to police as well as the insurance company, and we could safeguard our clients' belongings a little bit better by knowing who was at the open house, that it wasn't just you signing in as Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse, right? So by doing that, they usually back off. Now, what else happened right there with that person? I love when people react like that, though, because this makes it work even better. When they give that attitude, they're like, why you need to see my ID? No agent ever asked me for my ID before. Really? I'm shocked. I don't know how other agents conduct their business, but when you hire me, like the sellers did here, we look out for our client's best interest. And I don't know how you could do that without knowing who's coming in or going, because what if something goes missing? We need to check the ID. Really? You never had an agent ask for your ID at an open house? Well, this is the way that I do business, you know. And I could provide the same level of service to you if you're not currently working with an agent. I could represent you and provide that same level of service to you. Ooh. You see what that just did? Um, I'm showing how I'm doing stuff more than what other agents are doing. And you could be a brand new agent and do this.
So open houses are not I mean, it's not pre-registration thing. Anybody can walk in and see the house.
Yeah, that's why they call it open. It's open to the public. You got signs and balloons out front leading directional arrows leading up to that open house, and people can walk right off the street and come right in. So we need to check your ID and know who you are. You know, can this also pose dangers for people though, for real estate agents?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of
And if
course. You're
anybody
dealing with
can.
the general public, So you got to always keep your head on a swivel and be aware of what's going on and who's coming in. Check the IDs, do all that stuff. Never walk in front of people. Have people lead the way. Say, okay, would you like to start upstairs or downstairs? Or you want to go in the bedrooms? Okay, well, bedrooms are up this way after you. You have them go up and you lead them into the bedroom. You have them walk in front of you, go to the bedroom. Bedroom's right there, and you stay there, and you could answer their questions, and you could see them and keep an eye on them. But you have an escape route if you need to. They can't like block you in the bedroom or wherever the room is. Always have your getaway, position yourself in a getaway route in case something should ever happen. The likelihood of something happening is slim. Okay. But hey, you're dealing with the public. You never know. It's like the pizza guy. Pizza guy's always getting robbed, right? Uh, the pizza delivery guy. I guess that's why they don't do them. They have Uber Eats and all that delivering. But the pizza guy was. You'd always have people that were ordering pizza to have it delivered to a house, and then somebody who doesn't live there would jump the pizza guy, steal his pizza and his money and his shoes out front before he ever gets to the house. So you're dealing with the public. You never know. So you always got to be aware of your surroundings and try to act as safe as possible. Could you have somebody at an open house attend it with you? Absolutely. Okay. But never leave them there alone if they don't have a real estate license. You should always be, there at that open house. Okay. Because the owner hired you to be there. But those are some safety tips that I give agents too. All right. So I just want to give you that tip on open houses and how you could seem much better of an agent than agents that have been agents for 20 years already, just by simply asking to check their ID. Simple little thing like that. How much did it cost you? A big fat nothing burger, right? But it made you seem like a much better agent that's more diligent than these other agent schmoes that have been in the business for a long time. And you need to find a way to distinguish yourself from these other agents because there are thousands of them out there. And simply asking for an ID? Really? No agent ever asked you for an ID? I'm shocked. Right? A little bit of acting doesn't hurt. Okay. All right. So here we go. Cold. Let's highlight this in the book. Your fiduciary duties on page 31. Let's highlight that straight down. COALD, so you can see what it stands for. That's the acronym, COLD. And then I put the little screenshot here for old car as well, just in case you wanted to memorize that one. Okay. All right, so let's talk about care. Well, let's pull that off the screen really quick. Hopefully you didn't get a chance to read it. What does it mean to care for your client? I mean, if you're a brand new agent, right? Let's say you got a friend or coworker or family member, somebody, and they want to buy or sell a house. And you'd be like, hey, I just got my real estate license, come on, I'll take care of you. You buy the house through me or you sell your house through me, I'll take care of you. What does that mean? How are you going to take care of me? What are you going to do different that other agents aren't? What does it mean to you to take care of me? I'm putting you on the spot. I am.
Hold responsibility the for the transaction, I guess.
Well, I'm asking, what does care mean? How are you going to take care of me? You said that if, I use you as my agent, you're going to take care of me. So now I'm thinking, and I may even say out loud, because sometimes people are bold like that. They may be like, well, what are you going to do that the other agent's not going to do? Or what do you offer me? How are you going to take care of me? Now you're on the spot. I see that bead of sweat starting to form on your forehead and starting to drip down, right? Well, what do you answer? How do you answer this? You know, it's a real simple answer. How do you care for somebody? I mean, it's hard for you to come up with the answer right now off the top of your heads, but let me put this full screen. I'll put it back on the screen here. The answer is going to be shockingly simple. Care is providing the best service possible to your clients using the knowledge that you've acquired through your education and your experience for all the deals that you've done, right? Now you're new, you don't have any deals yet, but you can still explain that to people. Hey, caring for a client, I'll take care of you by guiding you through the real estate transaction with all my education and experience. Boom. Every transaction you do, you gain more knowledge, new situations that crossed your path, and now you know how to navigate them better. Every class you take, you're taking a licensing class now, you're learning more and more each day. And then when you get out there, you could take these other additional training classes like that Ottawa class I told you about, where you could learn how to value properties better and do CMAs. Any additional classes and training that you get, if you learn this information and you don't use it to help your client, you're not caring for them. You're being careless or negligent in the representation of your clients if you don't use that information. However, if you learn this information and now you apply it to assist your clients, you're caring for them. It's pretty simple stuff, really. But see, when I put you on the spot, everybody's like, oh, I know what care means. This trick question. This we get it all the time, but that's all it is. Simple as that. It's using your knowledge and experience to help your clients. If you have knowledge and you have experience, but you're not actually applying it to help them, you're breaching the duty of care and you're being careless and negligent in your client's representation. And the longer you're in the business, and if you go and get a broker salesperson's license or a broker's license, courts will hold you to a higher standard, a higher degree of care than somebody who does not have a real estate license or somebody who just got theirs. Okay? It all plays a role. So, care. I'm not going to read the page for each and every one of these fiduciary duties, but I will for care, because care's got a lot to it, a lot behind it. The other ones, I'll just give you a brief rundown and explanation. So, breach of duty of care. A real estate agent's expected to deliver the quality of service that a normal person would expect of a reasonably prudent agent. That's a thorough agent. Actions breaching this obligation might be failure to present a written offer before it expires. I got it highlighted there or underlined because do written offers expire? I mean, I know that if somebody submits an offer to you in writing, we have to present it within
24 hours.
within 24 hours. But if we don't, did the offer expire? No. So what are they talking about here? See, if I just read through the book here, that could have gone right over our heads. This is actually a negotiation stance, a negotiation tactic. Instead of just submitting an offer and waiting for a reply, and then the seller is going to have an open house, and now they get other offers. Now they're going to pit your offer against the other ones and saying, "Hey, now we got another offer. Make your highest and best offer," to try to get you to go up even more. Instead of doing that, I'm going to submit an offer that's going to have an expiration date on it. I'm going to say this offer is good for 48 hours. If the seller is going to accept the offer, they need to respond in writing that they've accepted the offer so that we can move forward with attorney review and get them under contract, and it's good for 48 hours. If we don't get it back in 48 hours, signed by the seller that they're accepting it, then we're going to rescind the offer and move on to the next property. It's basically telling them, hey, crap or get off the pot. We're here now. We're serious with our intentions. You need to either accept our offer or we're going somewhere else. We don't want you playing games with our offer, trying to pit us against other people to try to get us to get in bidding wars and such. Okay. So it's actually a pretty effective tool that many agents don't use. All right. So neglecting to mention in the purchase contract any fixtures or personal property desired by one of the parties. Personal property? Yeah. Maybe the furniture, maybe the washer and dryer. Wait, that stuff doesn't go with the house sale, does it? No, typically no. That's known as chattel. That's your tangible personal property. It doesn't go with the real estate. But is it illegal to ask if it can be included in the sale? Any law against that? No. Like when you're buying a house, can you say, can a seller throw in the washer and dryer? Because I'm going to need one of those. Hey, to make the deal happen, they may do it. And now you could save the money on buying a washer and dryer. Right? Especially if it's a nice fancy one. Yeah, they could be expensive. So, yeah. But if they ask you if that personal property can be included in the sale, and then you don't ask, you're not caring for your clients. You're being negligent in your representation. Or neglecting property being managed for another when we're talking about property management. Or improperly handling escrow deposits. Oh, your clients give you money. What do you do with it? Immediately give it to the broker so they can make their notes in the escrow book and deposit it in a bank account within 5 business days, right? Or failure to obtain all necessary signatures on a contract. Ooh. You may want to check their IDs for that one too. When you go get a listing or you got a buyer that's making an offer, say it's more than one buyer, couple, 3 people maybe, you need to get everybody to sign the contracts. If it's a listing you're going in to get, you need to make sure that all the owners sign. Ask them, are you two the only owners on this property? But before you ever go to that property, search the tax records. The tax records will tell you all the names of all the recorded owners. So if you see 3 names on there and you're meeting them and they say that there's only 2 people there, and you say, are you guys the only owners, or is there anybody else that needs to be signing here with us? And they say, yeah, we're the only owners. And I say, well, I looked in the tax records. It shows a 3rd person. Who's this guy? Oh, that was my dad. He died. Did he leave all of his interest in that property to you? Because he had an ownership interest. He could have left it to someone else, and then they'll need to sign. Or if he had several kids, maybe he left it to several. So you're going to have a couple additional signers that need to sign. Right? We need all the registered owners. If one of them is dead, okay, well, where's his directive? His that shows that he gave you the property, that you're the only one. See, this could create a cloud on the title for future owners down the road, right? So we need to make sure that the property is signed by all the current owners. The contracts are signed by all the current owners, whether it's for buying or selling, and check their ID.
If a salesperson is unable to present the offer within 24 hours, so is that a violation?
No, you could forward. You may not be able to present the offer within 24 hours, but you should be able to forward it to them by email or somehow so that they could get it, right?
Yeah, either ways, within 24 hours, nothing happens, then what?
Yep. Well, What do you mean nothing happens? It's up to them. It's up to the seller to take action. You could follow up with them, but if they don't get back to you, I mean, what can you do? I forwarded the offer to them. I'm waiting. What do you want me to
No,
do?
so I'm saying it's not
Okay.
a violation if
No,
salesperson. Okay.
no. Um, the violation lies in if you don't present that offer or forward it within 24 hours. Shouldn't be a problem for you to forward it, right? I mean, you may not be able to meet up with them to present it, but you could forward it to them and talk about it over the phone, right? It's being presented, right? You met your requirement. Okay. I'm going to tell you guys a little story. I'm going to try to make it quick. I went in for a listing appointment, meeting with a couple. It was in Springfield, New Jersey, in Union County. And I was going to get a listing. So I meet with the couple. I go to the house. They invite me in. We're going to go to the dining room table where we're going to go over all the paperwork. I got all my paperwork in a folder. And as I start walking into the house, I got this nagging little voice in the back of my head saying, check their IDs, check their IDs. Now, I'm not normally a fellow that hears voices, but this voice was telling me to check my IDs. Check the IDs, check the IDs. So I get over to the dining room table and it's really nagging. And I say, before I sit down, I put the papers down and I said, before I sat down, I said, oh, guys, I'm just going to need to see your IDs really quick. Like I didn't make a big deal about it. I said, guys, I'm just going to need to see your IDs really quick before we get started here, like driver's license or something. And, the husband, he reaches in his wallet, he pulls out his driver's license. I look at it. I'm like, okay, here you go. And then the wife, where did I put my pocketbook? She's looking all over for her pocketbook. She's like, oh, damn, I think I left it out in the car. So she goes outside and I'm talking to the husband and talking and talking and talking. And I'm like, what the hell? She get lost out there or something? So I get up, I start walking towards the door. She left. I was like, what's going on here? I was like, why'd she leave? And the guy's like, well, you know, um, that's not really my wife. It's my girlfriend. I'm getting divorced. But the wife, she's just such a bitch. She doesn't want to sign anything. And I'm like, are you for real? I was like, what were you going to have your girlfriend forge your wife's signature so that you could sell the house that both you and your wife own? That's a crime. And just imagine for a second that I got that listing and I put it on the market. And then buyers come and they make offers. Then it goes to attorney review. People now are putting money in and doing, putting money into this transaction, having things going on. And if I never checked before I put a property on for sale on a market to confirm that these are the real owners of the property, I could lose my license. I could get fined by the real estate commission for not checking the IDs and confirming that these people are the real owners. It could be some scam artist that broke in, changed the locks on the front door, and they're, trying to list the property and get money, get deposits or something. And I'm the dopey real estate agent that helped them commit their crime, right? So when this happened, I had a Scooby-Doo moment. Like all my past transactions in the real estate business were fluttering before my eyes. And I was like, just like, he's talking to me about his wife now. And I'm just like, oh my God, could this have possibly happened to me before? Oh my gosh. I'm thinking about how this could have actually happened. This is the first time I ever asked anybody for an ID at a listing appointment. And after that, I always do. Check the IDs of those people before they sign a listing agreement, sales contracts, whatever. Confirm these people are who they say they are. Otherwise, you could get in trouble for that. And if it gets to the point where somebody makes an offer, it goes through attorney review, appraisals get done, the buyer's got a lot of money now into this transaction. And if it gets all the way down to the closing table before we actually catch that that's not the wife, but the girlfriend that was forging the wife's signature, do you know the closing agents are required by federal law to check IDs before you could close on a real estate transaction? So they're going to check, and only at the closing table they realize that this isn't the owner that signed. You know what's going to happen? that buyer's going to sue everybody. They're going to throw lawsuits at the wall and see what sticks. The attorneys are going to get sued. The real estate agents and their companies are going to get sued. Those buyer, the seller and their fake seller, they're all going to get sued. So my heart was like, and I was like, I didn't even hear a word the guy was saying. I was blocking him out after that. And then I was like, all right, you know what? I cannot take a listing unless you get on the same page with your wife. But she's such a bitch. She doesn't want to sign. I was like, listen, I don't know if it's you or if it's her. I had a pretty good idea who it was, because of the way he's acting, I'm pretty sure she's the normal one. I was like, listen, you need to calm down. You need to play the part with her, get her on the same page. If it takes, biting your lip and sucking up to her a little bit, you're going to need to get on the same page with your wife or soon to be ex-wife and get her to sign the documents, to agree to sell the house. She may not even want me now as the real estate agent because you found me. You both need to. I was like, here's my information. You could have her call me and I could talk to her. But you guys need to be on the same page. Otherwise, this is not gonna work. Yeah, I never got a call, never heard back. So don't know what happened with that. But these happen all the time. I've dealt with divorces before and people selling houses during divorces. Sometimes it's a pain in the neck and you need to meet the husband and the wife separately because they can't be in the same room together, without arguing. So it's twice the work for us. So I like to charge a little more in commission if I know in advance it's due to a divorce, because if you can't meet at the same time, I got to do double the work. I got to meet. It takes twice the time for me to take a listing. So I've done it before. It's a bit of a headache, but I mean, it's still worth it in the end. We make a lot of money off of this stuff, right? So, hey, it's part of the biz. It's an experience. But we got to handle all kinds of issues. And listen, I could write a book about the experiences of selling houses and showing houses. Everything from being chased by a deaf dog who didn't know we were in the house until he saw us, to walking in on cheating spouses having sex with their other, to during a showing, you go there for a showing, you had an appointment and somebody's in the bedroom fooling, there's all kinds of experiences I've come across that I could write a little book about it. Anyway, failure to obtain all necessary signatures on a contract. The duty of care requires the seller's agent to, among other things, be knowledgeable about all aspects of the property to arrive at a reasonable listing price. And how do we arrive at a reasonable listing price? Do we just ask the seller how much you want for it? I usually ask them how much they want for it after I've already done my CMA, my comparative market analysis, to determine how much the home is worth, really, based on comparative sales that have recently sold in the neighborhood, comparable properties that have recently sold. You use that as your guide as to the price range that this house should sell in. Okay, hopefully they're comparable. Otherwise, you're going to have to make adjustments for the differences in size, conditions, amenities, etc. To come about that reasonable listing price. Now, we also want to ask that seller how much they want for their house to see if they're working in reality. Now, to discover and investigate material facts. How do you discover and investigate material facts about a property? First of all, you go there. You walk around the property. You look at it yourself. You check it out. You inspect it yourself. You're not a home inspector, but you could tell if something's messed up or not, right? And you could ask the seller questions. And the way you do that, you have them fill out this document here called the Seller's Property Condition Disclosure Report. I think I showed it to you guys before. I'll click on it and I'll show it to you from the shared Google Drive here. Let me go to the browser window. Remember this one? Okay, so the seller fills out this information. You can't help them fill it out other than telling them Be honest, fill it out as most completely as possible. You put the property information here, all the sellers' names go here, and the answers are yes, no, or unknown. And sometimes there may be additional information to fill out. Fill it out as completely as you can and be honest. By having you fill out this form, I'm helping limit your liability in the event there's a lawsuit. Nothing can prevent a potential buyer from suing you, but I could help you limit your liability in the event of a lawsuit. And by having you fill this out and be honest when filling it out, I'm limiting your, if there ever is a lawsuit, I'm limiting you to actual damages rather than 3 times the costs that the courts could award somebody if you lied or you didn't disclose something. Okay. So this is the disclosure statement. So take your time with it, fill it out. And then I fill out all the other listing paperwork while they're doing this. Okay. It's like giving a kid a set of crayons to play with. And so they're not hovering over your head. What's that? What's that? What are you writing there? You know, they've got their time to play with this for a while. Okay. So, you know, they got these questions. If you guys recall, I showed this the other day, questions about the occupancy of the property, the roof, the basement, attics, crawl spaces, termites, wood destroying insects, dry rots and pests, structural items, additions and remodels, plumbing, water and sewage issues, heating and air conditioning questions about the wood burning stoves or fireplaces, electrical systems, land, questions about the soil, drainage, maybe boundary lines, environmental hazard questions, questions about any deed restrictions or special designations, homeowner associations, or condominiums and co-ops. A bunch of miscellaneous questions, questions about radon gas, the silent, invisible, odorless, tasteless killer of radioactive gas that's all over the place. We want to know if there's high levels of that. Any major appliances or things that are included or excluded. Are you willing to include in the sale the washer and dryer, the refrigerator, or are you taking these things with you? What about the chandelier? If a house has a chandelier, always ask. Even if it's on a form, make sure you ask. Sconce lighting, that's the lighting that sticks out of the side of the wall. Those are those fancy lightings, or chandeliers. Always ask if the seller's taking it with them or if they're leaving it behind. If they're taking it with them, tell them they need to replace it with something. You can't leave dangling wires there. And I suggest you remove it before we start showing it, because somebody's going to fall in love with it and make an offer based on that chandelier being there. And then next thing you know, you remove it. They're going to be like, what the hell? I made an offer on this property. It was that chandelier made the entryway. It was beautiful. I feel like you're stripping the house down, you know? So make sure that they state on here whether they're taking it or leaving it behind, so that the buyer's informed, so that they can't say later on, oh, the seller took this out and it was supposed to be there, because now that would make the seller in breach of contract. You're not allowed to remove the toilet when you move, right? So you can't remove a chandelier. They're both fixtures. They're part of the real estate, unless you say in advance you're taking it with you. By the way, I had a lady in one of my classes one time, little funny thing. She said, when I said this, you can't take the toilet with you. She was like, nah, when I move, me and my husband, we're taking the toilet with us. The whole class like looked at her and started laughing. They're like, what? And she's like, I'm a tall lady. And she's like, my husband's even taller. She's like, you know how hard it is to sit on you little people toilets? And I was like, you know what? She makes a good point. I would have, that thought would have never crossed my mind. You know, it's kind of like us sitting on a little kiddie toilet, right? So I was like, okay, it makes sense, her argument. So can she take that toilet with her? You better put it in the seller disclosure that you're going to take the toilets with you, but you're going to replace them with a standard size toilet. Okay. You can't leave a open sewer pipe. Okay. But that was, I mean, that was a funny thing. I never heard somebody say something like that. I'm taking the toilet with me when I move. Okay. Questions about solar panels, about water intrusion, flood risks, flood zones. And then the seller acknowledges this, and they have room here to write anything else that may not have been covered in these questions. And if the seller's dead, their executor, administrator, or trustee would fill out this information. And then the potential buyers sign and date, and then both real estate agents do. So that's the seller's property condition disclosure. That's how you could become knowledgeable about investigating all material facts. And then as you go on through the transaction, buyers, if you're representing a buyer, you could ask for the seller's property condition disclosure report that they should have filled out at the time of the listing. And you could also advise the buyer you're working with, for your protection, get a home inspection. Okay. I actually have a flyer from HUD that says that. It has that saying on it, for your protection, get a home inspection. So if you can't find a flyer like that, make up your own, and give it to people. Have it as part of your listing pack or your buyer's package. For your protection, get a home inspection. Now, the duty of care requires the seller's agent, among other things, be knowledgeable. Okay, we already went over that. Let's see. Assist the owner with negotiating an offer that meets the seller's needs, and advise the seller on ways to effect the sale. Examples of breach of duty of care could include failure to inform the seller of how the property's condition affects its value, or failure to effectively navigate the transaction through the closing. A buyer's agent is expected to inform a client of whatever problems can be discovered through a reasonable investigation of the property, asking for the seller's property condition disclosure as well. Advise on probable market value by doing a CMA, just like you did for the seller. Advise on financing options, different financing options that may be better for them. Help negotiate the lowest possible purchase price, but not at the detriment of them getting the property. Don't focus only on price. And monitor the progress of the purchase until the transfer of title. A breach of duty of care might include failure to advise the buyer to closely consider issues that might be found in the seller's property disclosure, or improperly handling escrow deposits for the money they gave you, or failure to obtain all necessary signatures on a contract. Yes, buyers check their signatures too. All right, and the last paragraph there just says that courts hold salespeople to a different standard of care than brokers because they've got more experience, a higher license type. Any additional classes or education or a number of transactions that you do, they'll hold you to a higher standard. Okay, so moving along. Here's an example on page 32 of a question that sometimes you get on state exam. It's based on this scenario. It's not a question here. It's based on this scenario. What should you do if you're a rookie residential agent? Okay, so a rookie is a new agent. Okay, so you're a new agent. You're a brand new residential agent, and you get an opportunity to list a shopping plaza for sale, a commercial property. What should you do? Should you just fake it until you make it and take that listing? Or approach an experienced commercial broker that may be in your office? Ask your broker if they have any experience with commercial real estate, or if there's any agents in your company that do. That maybe you could partner together on this deal so you could learn how to sell a shopping plaza, what's involved in it, because I don't know the first thing about selling a shopping plaza. Are there like environmental studies that need to be done? What needs to be done before we could sell a shopping plaza? What's part of that transaction? So you should probably, as a new rookie agent, partner with a commercial broker within your own office. And if there isn't one, maybe send it as a referral to a commercial broker outside, with a further agreement that you work together, both representing the seller, and that they help guide you so that you understand and learn how to sell a shopping plaza. So next time, maybe you could do it on your own. So you could actually write up agreements like this. I'm going to send you a referral for a shopping plaza, which costs millions of dollars. I'm asking for a 25% referral fee. It's reasonable. But I want to have a further agreement here that our agency will represent the seller as well, because I want you to train me on how to sell a shopping center. Are you okay with those terms, Mr. Mrs. Commercial Agent? Okay. If they're good with that, they could guide me through the process. I'll give them a couple $1 million deal. You think they're going to shoot it down? No. It's your way to get a little free education out of the deal. Okay. This is not a business where you fake it till you make it. Okay. That's how lawsuits come about, because you didn't do something you're supposed to. I want you guys to tell me if you think that this is a violation of the fiduciary duties. If any of these agents violated their fiduciary duties here, okay? Here, let me optimize the video, and I want you to tell me what you think here.
There is new video tonight of a pair of real estate agents accused of using a client's home to hide a steamy affair.
Well, now the tables are turning. In a counter lawsuit, the realtors claim the video was part of an extortion plot. CBS 2's Hazel Sanchez has more.
The proof is in the pictures. Newly released surveillance video obtained by Inside Edition reveals veteran real estate agent Robert Lindsay locking lips with fellow agent Jean Marie Phelan in the foyer of a home Lindsay was hired to sell. The homeowners, Richard and Sandra Weiner, are suing Lindsay, along with Phelan and Coldwell Banker Real Estate, for allegedly using their Wayne, New Jersey home as their play pad to have sexual relations while the couple was at work. The owners say a surveillance system captured the agents making repeated afternoon visits to the home. Video from inside the master bedroom shows Lindsay and Phelan getting dressed after an alleged lovemaking session inside the Weiners' home. The Weiners say Lindsay intentionally listed the house at above market value so that there would be little traffic in the home. This still picture from one surveillance camera shows when Lindsay and Phelan realized their acts were caught on video. Now realtor Robert Lindsay is countersuing the Weiners, claiming they attempted to extort money from him in exchange for not releasing the telling surveillance tapes.
Robert Lindsay alleges the Weiners asked for $990,000 in exchange for keeping the surveillance tape secret. The Weiners could not be reached for comment this afternoon. Christine?
Junk, we got some spicy stuff going on here. A little drama. Now you don't want this stuff in your business life, do you? Listen, always assume there's cameras everywhere and listening devices everywhere. When you're entering someone's house, everything from the doorbell, people got those Ring doorbells, those camera doorbells, they can listen to, record, and hear everything you say, and see you. And sometimes people got nanny cameras, a little teddy bear got a camera in its eye, or outlet, they got these spy cameras all over the place, or they got security systems that are just obvious, but people don't notice them because they're busy doing whatever they're doing, or they don't think they're on or being monitored. Always assume you're always being watched. Don't put yourself in this situation like these people did, using a client's house as their own private hotel room. So let me ask you, do you think that either one of them violated their fiduciary duties? The man there, Robert Lindsay, he was the listing agent. The lady there, she worked for a different real estate company altogether. So did one of them or did both of them violate a fiduciary duty?
Both of them, of course.
Okay. Well, Robert Lindsay was the listing agent. He has a fiduciary duty to his client. The other one works for a different company altogether. However, even though she doesn't have a fiduciary duty to the seller, the real estate commission rules and the law, licensing law, both require all agents to care for people's properties, even if they're not your client. Like if you use a lockbox for showings to get into a property, they give you the access to get in. Here's a lockbox, okay? This is a Supra Key digital lockbox. You get access to it. You open it up, you could get the keys and go into a house and do a showing. You should always first call the listing office to set an appointment. You don't drive by, see one of these and say, hey, I'm going to open it and go inside the house. People could still be living there, number one. The other thing is you cannot enter somebody's house without first setting up an appointment without the seller's knowledge, okay? So you always set appointments before you use a lockbox to enter access to someone's house. But when you do, if they ask you to take off the shoes before showing the house, you have everybody take off their shoes, okay? If they, you don't leave all the lights on. If they give you an alarm code, you got to reset the alarm. You can't leave it off, with the doors unlocked and wide open. You got to look out for that seller's property. You cannot abuse it. You can't go filming episodes of Housewives of New Jersey, without the owner's permission and all that. All right. So that's why they were both in the wrong. She didn't violate any fiduciary duty, but she does have a requirement under the law and the administrative code to look out for people's properties. And so she was in the wrong, just like the listing agent was. Okay, now before we finish going off with the rest of this to find out what happened to them and do they still have their licenses? Did they get fined? Did they lose their licenses? Before we do that, I'm going to show you how this works. You guys want me to show you how a lockbox works? This is a metal lockbox, and it's covered in this bluish finish, so it doesn't mar the doors. If you got fancy doors or something, it doesn't make marks on them. It's covered in like this bluish rubber. Okay. And it has a battery. It's a lifetime battery. You don't charge it. You don't need to get these. Your broker already has them. They pay about $125 for each one. Okay. And you press on the bottom of this. You see that light just flashed right there? You just activated the battery. It'll be active for a couple of seconds. So you need to use the software, the GE security software you have, to open up this lockbox. Yes, that's something that you're going to need to subscribe to. I think it's like $15 a month to have access to these lockboxes. Let's see. Let me open up mine. Let me see. Supra E-Key. I'm going to have to update my code because I didn't update it today. So let me update that real quick. Because what it does is it communicates with a server. Anytime I open up one of these lock boxes, it sends a notification to the listing agent that I opened their lockbox, what time, who opened it, and when. So it keeps track and it sends messages. So let me obtain the key from this lockbox, which is in the bottom. So I'm going to hit the key button here. I'm going to type in my security code. I think that's it. I hope that's it. And you could hear it. Let me reactivate this by pressing on the bottom. Press on the bottom again and you hear that, and it drops out from the bottom. This is metal. It holds the keys inside. And then make sure after you lock up the house and you leave, you put that back in and it locks back in place. Okay, that's how these lock boxes work. Now, if you're the listing agent, you're going to have to install this on the door or a metal railing. Do not install this on a bush branch or a tree. Somebody can snap it off, take this home and take a sledgehammer to it and eventually muscle it open or cut it open with a sawzall and then steal the keys and then rob the house later. Okay, so in order to open this, every lockbox has its own shackle code. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to click on Open Shackle and put my code in there and a reason why I'm opening it, none, and begin. You can hear it. Let me activate it. and it pulls out like that. And you could see that there's, this is like chromoly steel, so it's pretty strong. It's got those hooks in there. And so you put this around a door handle or a metal railing or something, and then snap it back into place, it locks in. Okay. So it's pretty secure for keeping people's keys for their house. So they don't need to always be home in order for you to set up appointments to show a house. Okay. That's a way for us to get in. All right. Are you guys curious? This is the last thing we're going to do before the end of class today, by the way. Are you guys curious about what happened to these folks? You want to learn the rest of the drama? So interesting.
Yes,
right?
yes.
All right, Hazel, thank you. There is new video tonight.
Okay, so let's take a look. I use these resources. Remember the disciplinary actions page and how do you could search the status of people's licenses? Remember I gave you these links before? And I already did the search. And this is what I found out. Jean Marie Phelan, that was the woman. She failed to protect and promote the interest of the property owners and violated New Jersey statutes in that the aforementioned demonstrated unworthiness. Her license is suspended for 6 months, and she's required to complete a 30-hour broker's course on agency and ethics prior to issuance of any further real estate professional license in New Jersey, and got fined $5,000. So she violated also New Jersey Administrative Code, as well as the law 451517T and E. Now, Robert Lindsay, he was the listing agent. Let's see. He violated New Jersey Administrative Code, the same one, as well as these two laws, the same ones from the licensing law. He failed to protect and promote the interest of the property owners, and he demonstrated unworthiness, bad faith, or dishonesty. His license was revoked for a period of 1 year, and completion of a 30-hour broker's course in agency and ethics is required prior to the issuance of any further real estate professional license. Should he wish to obtain a New Jersey real estate broker's license again following the suspension? So if he jumps through all these hoops, they're going to give him back a salesperson license. They knocked down his license type from a broker salesperson to a salesperson. He has to requalify by retaking the entire 150-hour pre-licensing course again and passing the exam. And he got a $10,000 fine. You want to see if both of them did what they had to do to get their licenses back? And if Robert Lindsay went and got his broker's license eventually? Let's take a look. They're both actively licensed as salespeople. Robert Lindsay never got his broker's license back. If you guys want to learn more about the juicy details behind it, there's these consent orders you could actually read too. I could share them with you. I'll share them with you in the messaging app here, and then you can read more on it. It just shows you in the archives and the consent order, so you guys can check it out. Now, I don't show you these things because I'm not picking on these people. Who knows? I may work with them on transactions one day. That would be a little bit awkward since I teach this class and use them as an example. But either way, it's public record. So I'm not showing anything that anybody can't see on their own. I'm just using this as an example of what not to do. All right. And showed you how you could use those tools to find out. Okay, so the rest of these fiduciary duties, we're going to pick up at obedience tomorrow. We're going to leave off here. We'll finish off this chapter, obedience tomorrow, and we'll pick up at obedience tomorrow. But let me put out there the end of class poll. And let me stop the recording.